Alright, we got our support list here. Ferris is on the top because she's Final Fantasy V and I did them in realm order. Has nothing to do with the fact that Ferris is the best support in the game. Nothing at all. She is the only person that appears on this entire list that has access to both Dancer 4 and Support 5. She's a very strong debuffer with her USB, BSB, and her Soul Breaks, and strong Legend Materia. I believe her USB 2 is also a debuff, right? So she's more of a debuff support. And that's important to remember because debuffs aren't, or stat debuffs aren't terribly effective in Magicite dungeons. So understand that you're probably going to want a support for everywhere else, and you're also going to want a support for Magicite dungeons. Because debuffs are 80% effective instead of 50% effective. Or sorry, 80% ineffective. Reduced effectiveness. So they don't do much. Yeah, Imperil Wind and a triple buff of attack magic in mine. That her USB 2 is just absurd. So Ferris isn't a buffer, and that's important. And her Legend Materia are also good because I think they revolve around extending the duration of her debuffs, which she needs because she has so many of them. Yeah, increases the duration of stat debuffs by 40%. Excellent. And increases her damage dealt, which is really nice. Not quite on Van's level, but still very powerful. If you got them the enemy hyper break, she does just 20% more damage. That's it. You know, that's all. But normally you're probably going to be hitting the 12. Alright, next up we have Mog. And Mog's an interesting entry onto this list because I believe I would be considering him A tier if it weren't for his Legend Materia and USB. And I believe that his Legend Materia and USB appeared on a banner in Japan that we may not get. And that is a big issue. And you should know that going into this. I do believe we will eventually get it. But there is a possibility that it may be delayed. So not only would this be normally be given to us on a banner much later, like months and months from now, I think 3 or 4 for the Bra Bra event, but it may be even longer for global, and that's an issue. It's just something to take in consideration. But fortunately for Mog, is his Burst Soul Break is very powerful. So even if that does come to pass, if you have his Burst Soul Break, you're not really crying that much. You wish you could complete him because it's this entire package is what makes him S tier. But his Burst Soul Break is very powerful. It's a Magic Mind Heiska entry, so that'd be excellent, especially for Magicite dungeons, because it's buff based instead of debuff based. And that's basically what you're looking for from a support. And in the commands, it has an instacast Kiraga, which is nice for him because he has a decent mind pool. He was originally billed as a white mage, so he's kind of a white mage support hybrid. And his second command is a single target holy damage attack that does magic breakdown. This is very good because that allows him to throw 2 dancer abilities in his ability slots, and you can do the full complement of normal breaks with full break magic breakdown on its command, and Power Breakdown as the other dance. His Legend Materia is what am really sad about potentially missing or getting delayed. Is this is just an interesting magic uh, Legend Materia where he gets a 35% chance to cast a group heal 25. This is the same potency as the second command on healer Bursal breaks. So by using dancer abilities, he can just throw out Medicas just because. And we'll take a look at his commands just to see like what school they're in. I don't believe it's Dancer. Yeah, they're both white magic. It would have been cool. But you're probably going to run him with two Dancer abilities anyway in a rotation with his second command, so you're okay with that. Support, support, support. Alright, so that's Mog, and the sad state of Mog, and hopefully he gets developed into the character he can be. Setzer we have coming up next. He is also a gigantic stat debuffer, like Ferris, except more focused on stat debuffing, while Ferris is more a little more versatile than him, with her Dancer 5 and her damage output. He is a chase support, so that whenever he does any support abilities, including his Bursal Brace commands, it gives him a random, he chases it with a random breakdown on the boss. So if you just keep using support abilities, you could just potentially have, 8 or so breakdowns on the boss at once. And you don't even have to outfit him with, like, power breakdown, magic breakdown and stuff, because you're going to get that out of the chase anyway. Is a weird character. There's a lot going on for Setzer, and he definitely relies on having Wrath access. So you've got a Wrath to get up this USB and the BSB. And let me take a look at his LM. I think it allows him to debuff longer, which is very, very important for what he does. Because he needs to juggle all of these. Increases duration of stat debuffs by 30%. Good. And yeah, God, this Legend Materia 2 is just fantastic. So 30% chance after using a support ability of just adding a stacking attack magic bind debuff. Sure, it's 30%. It's not even weak. It's actually pretty damn powerful. So Setzer is just the ultimate debuffer. Riku made it on here because she does everything. Dancer is a very coveted thing to have as a support. She's also a damage dealer with her Imperil Water, so she debuffs the enemy through that, and she can mug Bloodlust with her Imperil Water BSB. But that's probably something you're going to be using more on water teams. But Riku can also, instead of just being, that on a water team, she can also operate as a buffing support with her excellent USB, which provides the attack and magic 30% and haste to the entire party, at which point she can just start dancing from there. Just an excellent all-around support that can fill in different situations, and being one of the Magicite supports with her dancer and her buff USB it makes her very strong. And her Legend Materia as well. I believe they're good. I did write strong, but 35% chance to quick cast 1 after using a Machinist ability. Her burst commands are Machinist ability, so that's more for damage output. Duration of stat buffs by 40%. Definitely something you're going to want to use if you've got her USB. So it's just Riku singularly isn't as good as these characters in one specific thing, but the fact that she can do multiple things is what gets her here. I rate utility very high for support characters, and Riku has the ultimate utility. And on A tier, I'm going to try spending less time. I know my previous list, I went over them each one by one. Ekko is a mage support. Her Bursal Break 2 allows her to do breakdowns and stuff like Ferris, but while Ferris is physical, Ekko is actually a holy black mage. And she also, in addition to having that debuffing BSB2, she has a buff BSB1. So Ekko, while being a dancer, dancer, white mage, black mage, has two different burst soul breaks, one that focuses on debuffs and one that focuses on buffs, which makes her useful in a variety of situations. Gordon, white mage 4, strong USB. It's break oriented, so less powerful, I'd say, than probably Red 13 and Edward, though Gordon is a better character, well, because he's a white mage 4 and can use swords and stuff like that. And the Imperial Fire Legend Materia is very nice too. I think anytime he uses a support ability, it gives him a chance to apply minor Imperial Fire. It's very good. Yeah. So that's very good support to have on a fire team. This passive Imperial Fire is definitely a nice thing to have. Edward and Red. We got Bard 5 here. Eventually becomes a thing. Imperial Holy. That's cool. Strong Legend Materia. But both Red and Edward are mostly defined by the fact that they have strong buff USBs, which make them strong Magicite supports. They're tri-buff USBs that also provide Heiska. I believe Red's is much better in the fact that it's tri-buff. Attack-oriented. I believe it's attack, defense, resistance, and haste the entire party, and status blink. It's actually an absurd Ultra Soul Break. While both of them have acceptable buffs, burst soul breaks too. Red's is attack and magic, and Edward's, while applying the Imperial Holy, also gives plus 50% attack, while having some debuff commands. Red also debuff commands. Kate Sith is a good buffing support. Also debuffing too. He has dual break commands. White magic, but high damage. Dancer, always love that. Bard gonna be a thing. White magic 4, always useful. That's why we like Gordon. And a strong buffing burst soul break, which adds attack, defense, and critical 50% to party. Very, very nice thing. And nice that it appears on the same banner as Zack's CSB, which increases crit damage on the party. So Kate Sith and Zack were meant to be used together, just as Cloud's USB and Zack's CSB were meant to be used together. It's the high end of the Cloud's Awakening banner has a lot of synergy in it, and thank goodness. We have Fran. She has a Hyper Break and an Imperial Ice buff USB. The buff is Quick Actions 2. I like it. I like the quick actions. I think it's going to be more useful in the future. Just not enough to push Fran into S. She could be with a nice soul break, a better soul break than her USB, because her Hyper Break BSB is very powerful. Minfilia, we have White Magic 5, Combat 5, so she's a Life Siphon support, really nice. Knight 5 can be useful sometimes, and a strong buff USB. She gets another tri buff. I believe it's attack, magic, and one of the defensive statistics, and gives Heiska to the party. So another one of those tri buff Heiskas. Pretty good. And she's more of a damaging support when you factor in her BSB, because it's just an attach holy BSB with normal breaks. But no break on entry. Yeah, so she's more higher deeps than the rest of them here. Ramza is a flip-flopper. He flits between S and A in my mind. The Combat 4 is really nice. That allows him to basically keep up 2 of his soul breaks at once. Very strong buff USB that applies instant cast 1 to the party, as well as tri-buffing. I think at the end of the day, I probably value the Heiska tri-buff USBs more, but as I said, speed clearing's going to be a thing, and Instacast definitely strongly pushes forward your agenda for speed clearing, and haste is available from much more sources than Instacast is. So Ramza is a very strong buffer just with his USB, and that's not even including his strong buff Super Soul Break, the meta-defining shout way back in the day, and strong Legend Materia that allow him to keep up buffs longer. So, you know, you life siphon with Ramza and you keep up 2 buffs. That's what he does. Miliadul is just, she annihilates attack. That's what she does. Why is she here? Because for a lot of the same reasons as Minfilia is. Minfilia strongly buffs with her USB, while Miliadul strongly breaks with her BSB. And she just gets rid of your attack. And always the combat 4 is nice to see. Okay, little Q&A for support. Oh, yeah, banners. Immediate future for banners, we have the Final Fantasy VII Awakening Cloud banner. Has the Kate Sith, who is a great support, as well as a lot of other good stuff, like from Sephiroth, Zack, and Cloud's game-breaking USB. So that's going to be very soon. Probably. And also, because of Mog's presence on the Celeste Sabin Banner 1, we have that in the immediate future as well. Best support for a mage team, Mog. His burst soul break is disgusting. Multiple supports on a team. I like it, as long as there's not too much overlap. And I'm defining support by who I have on this list, not including someone like Van, who is a damage dealer with strong debuffs. Absolutely, I will play Van with a full support as well. I doubt there will be many people that advise you not to do that, Bliven. That banner is pretty good, and I suggest pulling on it for a few reasons. Let's say about 90-95% of people will be benefited by pulling on that banner. And Minfilia, like I said, she's a damage dealer, while Ramza's a buffer. Minfilia can be a damage dealer with her BSB. And if you're going to be life siphoning and buffing with Ramza, then that means that you're not breaking. So Minfilia's breaks that appear on her BSB work well with him. Just make sure that you have 2 very strong physical characters that can take advantage other than those 2. Tailwind is handy, was handy, not as much anymore. Ramza, it's weird. I understand that all of these characters are on the same screen and I'm supposed to be comparing them to each other, but Riku and Ramza don't compare well. Riku doesn't compare well. She is a much more unique character than anyone on this list. Why she's on this list is because of supreme utility. Yeah, that is unfortunate, Bliven. Edgar was good back in the day, and he does have a really cool OSB. So while Ramza appears in A and Riku in S, It's just weird. No, Yuffie is not in the same situation as Riku. Yuffie's only Dancer 4. She's more of a damage dealing ninja that can break and throw in a dance if needed. While Riku, with her USB, can act as a full support. Well, Shadow's nice. Shadow appears, yeah, I mean, we see that on here. It's a very distant future, but in September, there's the Shadow USB banner, which is also the Setzer USB banner. Very strong. Right. Hugh Hefner basically brings up why I have Riku so rated so highly. Um, it's more like it's a character investment thing. Investing in Riku, if you've got stuff for her, is not a bad idea because she's going to be useful in so many situations that you're going to see a lot of return on that investment.